All right, fellas, welcome to episode 197. We're fast approaching episode 200, by the way, low key. How are we feeling today? We're recording almost literally as the final whistle just got blown at Goodison Park. Obviously, not the greatest end to 93 minutes of football, but 92 minutes of just absolute sublime beauty. So, how are we feeling? New year, new us.
If that's going to be 2023 Brighton football, I'll take that. I mean, what minute were the Olays starting? 75, something like that. Away from home, it looked like a horrible evening at Goodison, like weather-wise, and especially given that start, the first few minutes of that game was like bloody hell. We haven't got off the bus. Getting absolutely battered, and you thought to yourself, "Oh God, are we going to get away with this one?" And then we got just stroking the ball around, doing backheel passes in the 75th minute.
It's very, very hard to not be happy after that, isn't it? It was, it was something. Well, we'll get into it, but it was something.
Yeah, best club in the world, Alex says in the chat. Hard to argue. Hard to argue. Let's talk lineup first of all, because there are a couple of changes today. Caicedo back into the side as you would expect. Veltman into the side at the expense of Lamptey. Obviously, Gilmour is the one who took the back seat for Caicedo. We saw Sarmiento come into the side as well, and Evan Ferguson get his first Premier League start at just 18 years old after scoring at home against Arsenal. Away in the pissing rain at Goodison is very much a different prospect. So bold choices from De Zerbi in his lineup today. How were you feeling when you saw those? You know, hindsight's 2020 now, but how are you feeling when you saw that lineup there? Were you happy, excited, confident, worried? What was the thought process?
Well, we just come off the back of talking about the Arsenal game and discussing like how Trossard's not really been at the races, and is it the right decision? But Ferguson's probably not ready. I think I said that. Turns out I'm an idiot. But you looked at that lineup and you cut both like Sarmiento and Ferguson away from home in a game that you felt like we really want to walk away from this in a good place. Was just an absolutely, I don't know. Now after the fact, you look at it and go, what an absolute legend De Zerbi is. But before the game, when you sent over the message saying Ferguson starts and then Sarmiento was in the team, I thought, what's happened here? Why has he done that?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, hindsight's amazing, isn't it? But, you know, you make a number of changes in a game that actually we wanted to bounce back from. And you've got, I don't even know what the average age of our team is nowadays, but it probably dropped significantly after those changes. But, I mean, Ferguson made an impact, and I guess you have to give him the benefit of the doubt from last time. But a few changes, especially with Trossard out as well, you think, okay, what are we doing here? And yeah, pleasantly surprised, I think.
Yeah, I've been desperate to see him in the same role Sarmiento was in today. So I was like bummed that he wasn't playing behind him. And then it didn't matter, did it? Justin in the chat, what a night. The Everton chairman will be screaming teams like Brighton as he sacks Lampard later this evening. Yeah, that may well be the final nail in the coffin. I feel like we've had about 8 nails in the coffin already for Lampard, but this surely must be the last one. Like, surely. It was bad.
But he doesn't even seem disliked necessarily by the Everton fans, because they want the board gone more than him. I think part of what he was able to do at the end of last season. But the fact that we're even getting on to like semi feeling bad for Everton fans is a testament to like how battered they just got. Because like the fact is they're 4-0 down, and this is how easy like the sliding doors moments can happen. Right, they're 4-0 down. They bring on Neil Maupay. And we're there bringing a World Cup winner on 4-0 up away from home. And you just think, God, that could have been. It's like seeing, like you saw an ex-girlfriend out and it's like she's out with just some absolute rotter and you're in a good place. You're like, well, I'll tell you what, this has worked out nicely for me. That's
Some
what it
lad
felt
with-
like.
Some lad with a teardrop tattoo and 3 fingers. Yeah, no, it's absolutely mental, isn't it? First 7 minutes though, were quite worrying, weren't they? After that, I don't think there's a single bad word to be said until stoppage time of the second half. But that first 7 minutes, I think we all thought, oh boy, this could be a long night because Everton looked well up for it. Pressing very high, very effectively, taking the ball off us at every opportunity. It wasn't just one Brighton player. Every single one of them looked just shell-shocked at the speed Everton came out. And thankfully, Everton weren't able to convert either of their 2 shots in that time. And I think from the moment we won the ball back in their half, after about 7 minutes, 30 seconds, the game never came back into Everton's favour. We then just continued to dominate the ball. And it felt like it was a matter of time before we converted a chance somewhere or another. But that first 7 minutes was a little bit scary, wasn't it? It felt like we were in for a long night.
Well, I just consistently slow starts, isn't it? I think I'm not going to sound like a broken record because we've spoken about it a couple of times, but just a little bit slow out of the blocks. So first 5 minutes or so, I'm like, oh, this is going to be a long game. We're in for a bit of a slog here, and we're going to have to pull something out. But after that, the game just sort of turned on its head. It was very strange. Like once we beat the press once, it was like we've got that key now and we can do it at will. It was very strange for them to give up as quickly as they did.
Yeah, it was. It almost felt like what I imagine and other teams experience when they're playing us. When we've got that crazy high press going, and you can get the ball moving around, you kind of feel like, well, it's only a matter of time here. We keep doing this for a little bit, and we're gonna score. But this time, no, we just dealt with it. Like they had opportunities, and we managed to get away with them. I think the difference this time is that we just felt like we didn't have in the past. Is when you do get those opportunities to break out of the press and kind of get to the sort of final third. Is we'd end up having someone last year or the years prior, just we wouldn't take a chance. And we've got difference makers in the team now, and they take their chances and they can go around people and they can finish. And that's the big change.
Yeah, it really is, isn't it? We've been begging for a player to look comfortable driving forward, and now we've got about 8 of them. The average starting age of that 11 today, Craig, you said how young it was away at Goodison Park. For a team fighting for their life, essentially, as well. 24 years old. That's quite a call, isn't it? And Dunk, Veltman, and Gross skew that massively. If you take those out, and you play a Lamptey, Webster, and a Gilmore, or rather Alexis, just stick Alexis in there in that original 11, right, instead of Gross, and you're into the 23s. So this is a very young team. We all know that, and I mean, there's no one younger than Evan Ferguson. And how comfortable did he look? He looked like a 28-year-old peak target man striker in the Premier League, didn't he, today? I know we'll get onto the players in specific after we go through the goals, but wow. Just from the first second he turned up, I mean, he looked comfortable against Arsenal of all teams. But today, magnificent, wasn't he?
Yeah, I mean, he's built like a 28-year-old. I mean, just the size of him alone and being able to put himself about.
I wish I was built like that when I was 20.
Yeah.
I was just saying.
But he looks the part, doesn't he? He puts himself about. He was full of running. Like it's something that you want. And then the yellow card at the end of the first half. I know we're going to go through it, but I liked it at the end of the first half because he's putting himself about a little bit and he's getting stuck in. Against Connor, Cody, Tarkovsky and stuff, you're in for a tough night regardless of who it is. So I thought he did amazing today. And yeah, what was that? 2-2 at 18 years old? It's very, very good start.
Not just that, but he hit the post, hit the bar in the first half, right? He assisted Solly's goal.
Close to the top bins for 2-0 as well. It wasn't far away.
He also had some ridiculous touches as well before he went off, where he links up the play. A bit cliche to say it, but for a big man, he's got a decent touch on him, and he looks comfortable, right? He looks comfortable. He doesn't look like not just from a stature standpoint, but from an actual how well he fits in with the flow of a game. It didn't ever feel like, oh, the ball's going to go to Evan Ferguson, it's going to clunk off his knee, or like, oh, he's never going to be able to open up the space. He's tidy. He's a tidy footballer. You can't be excited, but especially with the goal, with just the fact that we actually had a forward in a position where you get on the edge of a rebound or a cross coming into the box. And that felt alien to me after how many months and months and months and months of the ball coming in, and you're like, hold on, where's Trossard's over there, March is over there. We had a guy there, and he put it in the back of the net.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and say it already. After 1.3 games of Evan Ferguson in the Premier League, I feel like Glenn Murray somewhere is watching this game thinking, "Oh, to be 18 again," because he just had all of the same characteristics as Glenn did back when he was first on loan with us. I feel like he was from wherever he was at the time. I think he's a bit quicker than Glenn even now, but just the touch, the comfortable, like the way of holding up the ball, and even that halftime booking, Craig, like that was peak Glenn Murray, wasn't it? Like that's exactly the sort of thing you'd expect him to do. I think we're going to talk a lot about young Mr. Ferguson in the next hour or whatever.
I'm already getting roasted in the YouTube chat by Alex.
Let's get to that. Ian in the chat. Let's just keep hold of all our current players. A signing or two will be good. Let's see how far we can take it with this squad. We'll talk about the transfers, I'm sure, because who knows what Tony Bloom was thinking tonight with that lineup, and who knows what he's thinking post full time. It's an interesting one, I'm sure. Mikey in the chat said he's going to pretend that game finished 4-0. Honestly, I know it was disappointing at the end there, but it kind of feels like it did anyway for me. I'm not that bothered. It is what it is. I'm not that fussed that it's 4-1. Alex, so here it is. Adam, just 3 days ago, you were saying that you would like Evan Ferguson to head out on loan in January. It's now January the 3rd. Evan just back to Goodison. How are you feeling about that thought now?
Yeah, I didn't specify where. I meant Real Madrid on loan. Get some experience elsewhere on the continent. And I've already called myself an idiot right at the start of the pod. But look, this is a very small sample size. He looks very, very, very good from what we've seen. Are we going to be able to give him the game to is it better for him to play 90 minutes every week in the Championship, for example, and get better that way? Or are we going to spell him like we are now and bring him in when needed? Because I certainly did not expect him to start this game. I don't know if many Brighton fans would have expected his name to be on the team sheet from the start in an away game in a difficult situation. I think when Danny Welbeck's back, he's back on the team sheet. So then how much game time do you give him? Do you give him 20 minutes, 30 minutes a game, dependent when Welbeck goes back down? I don't know. All I'm going to say is he's a joy to watch based on what we've seen so far. I still think if we can bring in a quote unquote other body, a proven striker, if that's even possible, I still think it's good to get him out and get him more experience that we won't be able to give him. But look, if he proves himself good enough over the course of the next few games before the end of January, I mean, it doesn't matter what age he is. Play him.
Yeah, I think I was in agreement with you last pod as well, was that, if everyone is fit, then you do, for the sake of the person and the sake of his own development, he needs to have regular game time. If he's going to score a goal a game in the Premier League, then he's getting sustained game time and his development still works. So, there's a nice little loophole there for you. But I was of the same ilk anyway, was he needs to be playing consistently. And if he can do it in the Premier League, then fair play. But I still think that if everyone is fit, that Welbeck is that person in the starting 11 still. But who knows? These games are going to come thick and fast. It doesn't look like Welbeck is anywhere close or sort of anything at that ilk. So maybe Ferguson just starts from here on out and see what he can do.
Yeah, we've been talking about all three of us really. We're talking about Evan going on loan in one format or another. I was hoping we'd make a big signing in order to facilitate that. All 4 goal scorers today cost a combined £5.6 million. So That aged well. The first goal, they had 7 minutes of dominance. We returned with 7 minutes of dominance, and we scored our goal. Caicedo, immediate impact back into the team, wasn't it? What a pass from him. And what a first touch from Mitoma to just leave. I think it was Patterson for dead. And then what a comfortable finish. 1-0. And Goodison were very quiet from then on until they just got angry at their own team.
Caicedo was unbelievable today. And I'm not going to steal Craig's thunder, who was the first to kind of just bring up while watching the game just how incredible he is. Not for X, Y, or Z reason, but just because he's just a good footballer. But Mitoma, I mean, as you say, that first touch, he cuts inside. So one guy's left for dead, goes around another one and jukes on the right, and then smashes the ball home in the far corner, beats Pickford and another guy. So he's basically essentially beaten 3 people and the goalie. He should have had a brace against Arsenal. So you're looking at a guy that really, despite the back of his studs, moving in the opposite direction of the goal against Arsenal, should have 3 goals in 2 games. He is just, we didn't have that player realistically, unless Trossard was on his day and we were playing on the wing and it was one of those Trossard games. We didn't have a guy that just can cut inside, beat a couple of men and put the ball comfortably in the back of the net on a regular basis. He's so good.
He's so fun to watch and just all the time. So direct, so clinical. I think we said last time as well, is that you can sort of rest assured. I mean, he had a stray header, so that kind of defeats the whole point that I'm making. But you know, when he does cut in and when he does get past his man, there's a very high chance that is at minimum on target. And that again is something that we've also struggled with in past years, is just hit the target. I think that's, you know, we said when Wepu was unfortunately had to retire in bits and pieces, it was at least he hits the target, at least he makes the goalkeeper work. And it's those sort of things, and that'll come with Ferguson as well. But just consistently getting past his man, consistently hitting the target, and you can see what he brings. And he's now so dangerous. You even see it in the first half where he's getting double teamed from the first minute, and it just opens up the rest of the defense and the rest of the team where you can just unlock them in other ways. What a joy to watch.
Yeah. Liam in the chat says, bye-bye Trossard. And I think it's a good thing to bring up before we get too deep into the rest of it, because it escalates very quickly from here after we cover the first goal. The idea of Trossard, I've heard, I guess they would probably consider themselves Brighton influencers online, dropping the big kind of like sensationalist idea that Trossard was dropped in all caps. Played 2 full games, started both games on the 26th and the 31st. Is this not a possibility that he was simply rested for this one? He was our lone striker for both. We've noted that he was top of basically I think you said the five top European leagues. He was in that top group of people who pressured from the very top, runs his socks off, even if he's not had a great game. He obviously works incredibly hard up there. Is it not possible this was simply a tactical maneuver to rest him and try and bring on a young kid that is obviously just had a fire last 10 minutes against Arsenal and just think, I'm Roberto De Zerbi. I'm going to trust my player to do what he can do up there and see what we can create with a player like that. Is that not something that, personally, that's probably my point of view more so than the sensationalist of he's been dropped. I don't think he was dropped. I think it was probably a tactical rest for me.
I'll be more sensationalist. Sorry to cut you off, Craig. If he's good enough and he's playing well enough, you don't drop him. You don't rest him. Rest him for the FA Cup game. He's just not been good enough. Yeah, like we said last episode, nothing for Belgium, and just hasn't been showing even just the right level of performance. It's not like you've been seeing stuff out of Trossard where like, oh, at least he's giving it a go. He just doesn't look like he's fully up to the pace, and maybe he's got half his mind is out the door already. We don't know. But yeah, if he's playing well enough, I think he starts, because he is, let's face it, over the course of probably the last 3 years, arguably the best player at the club on a longer term basis. And he just ain't it right now.
Yeah, agree. I think you'd be more aggrieved if you're Billy Gilmore and get dropped. I mean, if you're going to use the same, if you're going to use the same sensationalism that you want to use, you say that Lallana's been dropped and Gilmore's been dropped, and Tarek Lamptey has been dropped, even though they all had relatively good games against Arsenal. Trossard is the one there that I thought, could be substituted out and rotated around, just because he hasn't shown too much in the last 2 games. So yeah, if you apply the same method to the other 4 that also got rotated out today, I'm sure he'll be the one that's least aggrieved.
Yeah, a couple of people in the chat talking about Trossard after Liam started this conversation. You've got people talking. Liam's a good choice of topic here. Tartan Hero thinks that Trossard needs to be replaced before we sell him.
Agree.
How instrumental he is at his peak. In regards to how instrumental, top scorer still, by the way, by a distance. So yes, very important. Wandering Seagull basically said what I said near the start of the show. Imagine Trossard playing where Sarmiento played today with Ferguson up front. Way too early to write him off now. That's something I really want to see. If Ferguson can keep this, if this isn't just a fluke like the Connolly situation was, but it doesn't have that air about it at all, does it? Not sure how you drop Ferguson after this. At least let him play one half until he's exhausted. Yeah, I mean, he's got a 4-week break now, hasn't he, for the FA Cup? I feel like if you're going to drop him at the FA Cup, it's because you're planning on starting him going forward in most Premier League games. He's now your number 1 choice.
Well, game's in 4 days, isn't it? I think we ain't got that long.
Isn't it? Yeah.
Maybe Leandro's back in.
Yeah, it could be. I don't know what day it is. I don't know where I am. I'm still not past this crimbo limbo situation. Justin, Auf Wiedersehen to Undav. Also, I think that's probably the safest bet of the winter transfer window there. Justin, yes, I think one way or another he will be gone. Saw a couple of rumors that Turkish clubs are interested in him. No, sounds like a classic Turkish league transfer, doesn't he?
You know what's weird is think of all the hype and we were fairly big on the Undav hype machine.
We were.
Let's that fall away to the annals of history. But imagine thinking now to this point back then, where we'd be talking about we should probably be loaning Undav out and starting Evan Ferguson. What a weird turn of events where we were hyping up Dennis Undav to hopefully be our Lord and Savior. And instead, we're like, let's sack him off to Besiktas and we'll start Evan Ferguson up front. Tremendous.
It's a whirlwind of a 6 months, isn't it?
Yeah, it's been
just when you think about it.
Yeah.
We sat here at the beginning of the season or whatever, like, oh yeah, like Undav's, he's going to work great under Graham Potter. And now look at what we're talking about. Yeah, I mean, I didn't see anything about his personal reasons. He was obviously left out of Arsenal for personal reasons. I don't know if that's still the case or not. And I think, speculation can always be had. But yeah, I mean, it looks like he's on his way out. But hopefully, if he is on his way out, then he does good things and finds that form that he found in Belgium.
Yeah. All right, let's talk the actual game. We got totally derailed there. I love it, but we want to get back to this one. So the first half of this game against Everton was very open. They actually won the possession battle, which is rare under De Zerbi so far. Plenty of shots on each side of the field. Quite an open game of football. It looked like we were always the more likely to convert. Dominic Calvert-Lewin was an absolute nightmare for us, though. He gave us problems all the way through until he kind of turned it on in that second half. It felt very much like one of those games that Gus Poyet and Oscar Garcia used to say they despised in that first half because of how open it was, which means we ergo have no control. And De Zerbi is very much the same way. I think all of them, really, barring Houghton, have been that way, right? Like they crave control of a football match. And that first half had all the annals of just a totally open mess of a game. But let's touch on that final moment, because it was really just back and forth football. That final moment, Evan Ferguson fouling Idrissa Gueye, I think it was. I know we touched on it already, saying it was something we like to see, but at 18 years old, the shithousery to just do it and not care. And all really just to back his teammate in Mitoma, right, is something you really, really do love to see. And something that I don't want to say emotional maturity, because he did get himself booked on purpose, but it does require a level of that to not go in and hack someone, for example, like out of frustration. The foul was very deliberate and very mature in the way he just bodied the lad off the ball on purpose. I thought it was good. I loved it. I'd be happy to see that every week if necessary.
We need a bastard back in Brighton. We've been missing one, and he can be the guy. We need the guy that's going to come in and be like a bit of a mini villain that's going to come in and just leave a foot in when something like that happens. And that's just, I like to have a little bit of that. We'll regret saying this when he gets red carded for studding someone at some point. But I think if he was still on the pitch when Mac got brought down by Decore, he was clearly just furious at the end of the game and just like scythed him down. I think he would have come roaring up and probably battered into Decore as well.
You imagine being a shithouse at 18 years old as well. You know how annoying that is for any opposition team whatsoever. I mean, it just shows you like there's a camaraderie there, even if you're on the bench and bits and pieces. I think it was the right thing to do, regardless of the player. You stop the play with your teammate down at 2 minutes to go until the half. Like it's the right choice to make, and he did it for the team. Like, again, I think we said at the top, I like the decision, I like the tenacity of it. So fair play to him. And then he comes out in the second half and does what he does as well.
Yeah, halftime comes around. You're expecting a bit of a response from Everton because Goodison was hoping for something there. And it was prime De Zerbi ball, wasn't it? 12 shots, 7 on target, 55% possession, 88% pass accuracy. We were back in full flow for almost a full 45 minutes. It's if you want a game of football to go in a specific way for De Zerbi, this was it, wasn't it? Within about 6 minutes of the restart, we started scoring, and we didn't look like stopping. Then for the next, I think it was 6 minutes, we scored 3 goals in
5 minutes 5 seconds, I believe.
And the first one was Evan Ferguson doing exactly what you noted, Adam. Box in the box, someone we've missed for a while. And the run from Sarmiento was excellent to create that ball coming into the box. And there he was, just cool, calm, and collected, and slotted it into the roof of the net. And it wasn't one of those ones where you thought, oh, he could have skied that. It looked pretty intentional to just pop it up there, didn't it? It just looked like he'd been doing this for years.
This was an unbelievable goal, and Ferguson's going to get the plaudits, rightfully so. But please go and watch this goal back. I've just watched it about 3 times on repeat while I've been talking, because the ball starts at Robert Sanchez's feet, and it goes between Colwill. Dunk plays it out to Veltman. The ball goes up. Caicedo gets the ball. Nearly everyone touches the ball before Estupinian puts in this incredible through ball to Sarmiento, and then we get it into the box. There's a reason that De Zerbi was hugging on the sideline, because it felt like the goal he wants to score. And I think I've said something like that before, but it was just a perfect. We start at the back, try and lure that Everton press in, beat the press, get the ball out quickly, direct goal. Just stunning.
Yeah, team goal, isn't it? I think I can't put it any better than that. It's the goal, like you said, that De Zerbi wants to score. He doesn't get a little bit better than that. And just, 2-2 as well. I think it's just right place, right time. He has that instinct, doesn't he? I think we can wax lyrical about Evan Ferguson for the rest of the pod if we'd like to. But as long as he keeps it going, then fantastic. But yeah, he has that presence, doesn't he? It's just, and such a good finish, like you said, Josh.
Yeah, outrageous, really. And within about 2.5 minutes, he showed that he's not just a clinical finisher, but he is a adept build-up play specialist as well. He can do just about everything you want him to. I feel like Everton had barely had time to register the fact that they were 2-0 down before Solly March is supplied by Evan Ferguson before promptly putting James Tarkowski on his face, which was an absolute joy to watch after seeing him mouth off all that time. It was just beautiful. And Solly March, of all people, as you would absolutely expect after the first half of this season, takes one touch, puts Tarkowski on his face with the touch, and then coolly slots into the bottom corner as if he's just been scoring goals for fun his whole life.
It's strange, isn't it? He's such a confidence player, isn't he? And you know, bangs one top bins, and it's such a good finish. I think, yeah, from our perspective, it's fantastic. I think just you have to also account for the complete capitulation of Everton, where it was such a easy. I say easy. He did, yeah, put Tarkowski on his nose, but it's just the positioning and just the counterplay that we have is so good, but Everton were at 6s and 7s, and it led to these quick fire goals where they just couldn't get a handle, and we were just too much.
I think it came from like a really innocuous place on the pitch, and a ball went up, and I think Sarmiento chests it down, and more credit for Ferguson, by the way, because he makes the goal not just from the pass onwards. He makes this wonderful run cutting back down to the bottom of the box, and he draws a defender away, which gives March the space he needs to cut inside and then embarrass the rest of the Everton defense. That's wisdom beyond just years to be able to create that space and that movement. And just, yeah, as we've been saying for a long time, Solly March, clinical finisher, always takes every chance he's given. And yeah, but he's in such a great. We are so privileged at the moment to be watching a lot of the players that we have, but let's specifically talk about the flanks between Matoma on one side and March on the other, based on the form Solly's come into and the confidence that he has. Craig, as you said, pick your poison, whoever we're playing against, because that's nice to have.
And we said this, we don't want to be too gloaty here, but when we did our deep dive into De Zerbi, we did tell you so. We told you that this would be the rise of the wingers under De Zerbi, and how much he values that role. And the fact that we really didn't have many that could do it. And we spoke at the time, really, it was really just Mitoma, Trossard, and March that we had in mind. And all three of them have been excellent. I know Trossard's been a little bit quiet, but he still is our top scorer. And yeah, I mean, you're seeing it now in full effect. This is what De Zerbi values on the wing. And I will say though, Craig, Everton were at 6s and 7s until that third goal, but they poured on the pressure after the third. They came full flank. They had 100% possession for the 2 minutes after the goal. They dominated the ball. They were flying as many people forward, which led to the most obvious option in the world, right? You cannot leave Pascal Gross alone to counter attack you. The most lethal
pace merchant.
Yeah, like it's, you talk about them in the same sentence. You can't leave players like Mbappe and Gross alone on the break because you're just not going to catch Pascal Gross when he's left alone like that, are you? I mean, he just left them for dust.
I don't think Gross would catch Mbappe if he's on a moped. There's I don't know what, I think it was Idrissa Gueye, right, that did this, probably still seething after being battered by Evan Ferguson, but just the audaciousness of the finish as well, the fact that he was able to sprint away and then just dink it over Pickford is just obnoxious in a perfect way. And I really feel like he's probably the only player in the team that does that finish. Everyone else just tries to slide down the side, and he just goes, "No, screw this. Let's embarrass him a little bit." There's too many superlatives to say about this game right up until the last 2 minutes of it, and the finishing's one. And this is the difference. And I don't want to derail because I know you all want to talk about the goal here, Craig, but I still am adjusting personally to a free scoring team because we just aren't used to it. And I feel like we've been so conditioned after the years of Potter, where obviously everything was incredible and right up until the end, where you don't have this kind of stuff. These results don't really become the norm. And I'm looking back over our results over the last few months since De Zerbi's come in and be able to actually like put his stamp into this team. we're a free scoring football team. Like, it's weird. We just should have put 3 past Arsenal. We scored 4 against Everton, 3 past Southampton. When's the last time we scored that amount of goals in a 3-game span? Like, it's
This was the first time we've ever scored 4 away from home in the top flight in our history. So
it felt like it as well. It feels like it, but what a great new normality to come back to.
Yeah, I mean, what is that? 32 goals in 17 games now. That's not something that we're used to in any way or any stretch. It does. I think you're right. I was sitting there at 4-0 and my heart is going like, this is not normal. This doesn't happen. And you're right. We're not preconditioned for it whatsoever. It's just fucking, it's fun though, isn't it? Like, it just, even if you're, and we'll take it back to the Arsenal game, you're 4-1 down and you're like, yeah, but we can score at pretty much any time. It just depends. So it's different. The wingers are so important, like Josh was saying as well, is that they are so direct, and a lot of the creation comes from those wings, and we're just seeing a completely different team now. And then we try and see out those games or just score one more than the other team. But luckily it went to the former this time.
Zerbi has just said in his post-match that he was not happy with the first half. He wasn't happy with the defensive play, nor the way that we didn't control, which says everything you need to say.
What a legend.
We knew this was coming. We knew that's how he was going to feel 10 minutes ago when we said it. It's just we know enough already about him. Teams in the Premier League that have scored more than Brighton and Hove Albion: Tottenham Hotspur, Liverpool, Arsenal, and Manchester City.
And Spurs is one goal more.
Yeah, that is there. And Liverpool are only 2 more.
Yeah,
I mean, really, the only Arsenal and Man City are the only 2 that are really a distance away from everybody, not just us. They're flying, as you can tell from the way we've been playing against them when we've had to come up against them. But from then on, after that 4th goal, Everton, I mean, I think Craig summarized the word pretty well, capitulated entirely. They were pretty much done. And 5 minutes after scoring the 4th goal, and the head's going down entirely.
What a statement. Sorry, go on.
We are 4-0 up away from home for the first time in our top flight history. 18-year-old Evan Ferguson has just scored 6 minutes ago. Pascal Gross has just done you for pace. James Tarkowski is still on his face, and we bring on a World Cup winner to solidify the midfield and give Sarmiento a bit of a break. I think you said it pretty well there, Adam. What a statement that is to make.
Yeah, and if you've been unfortunately cryogenically frozen for the last couple of years and you've woken up to hear, and you happen to listen to this podcast and you just heard what Josh said, it doesn't sound particularly believable with any stretch of the imagination, really, does it? When you combine it all to that, combine everything, by the way, combine the goals scored, combine the fact that people are talking about Eddie Howe, manager of the year. Well, they've played one more game than us and scored the same amount of goals. And you're only really, Arsenal scored a handful more goals than you, and they're having their historic potential league winning season. This is just an amazing, amazing time. And then, your World Cup winner comes on. And by the way, the World Cup looks good on Alexis McAllister, because that he was strutting around. Now, it's a pretty nice spot to come on when you're 4-0 up away from home and you've got a World Cup winners medal in your bag, and you've been playing with Lionel Messi for the few games prior to this, but he now looks like a proper Rolls Royce, doesn't he? Just strolling around the pitch, doesn't really lose the ball, sees the pass before his marker does. Yeah.
We've all seen the welcome he got yesterday when he came back in.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, if someone comes in with a £75 million bid and offers him quadruple the wages, he's going to go. We know this. But what a welcome back, Craig. Like, it's not a club he's going to leave joyfully, is it?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously it's nice, like it's such a massive welcome back, and making the effort. It just feels like a team, doesn't it? like it just, I think they mention it a couple of times on commentary and bits and pieces, but these players fight for each other and they celebrate together. So it's obviously a good thing to see for us fans as well, that, you know, they're able to relish in other people's achievements and be able to celebrate that. These guys are together, day in, day out. So of course they're ecstatic for him. And it was a really nice touch. And coming to the game, it's nice to put him on for 25 minutes with just no real responsibility at all, apart from just keep the ball and do what you do best. And we know what he's capable of. Everyone else saw it in Qatar. It's just now up to him. Now he's got this aura around him that he continues on the high level that he is.
Yeah, there's nothing more to say about how good he is and where he fits in the club. Like we know the situation. I think we've talked about it. The money, if the money's right, it's going to be a hell of a shame to lose him. But what a different player he looks at. A year on, what a different player. He is literally a world beater.
Silly challenge from Sanchez at the end to concede the penalty, but also not great from Estepinian either, was it? Felt like just a bit of a total lapse of concentration from everybody who was more concerned with olaying each other than they were to actually play the ball a little bit at the end. Don't want to spend too much time on it. I'd rather, you can summarize how you felt about that when I stopped talking, obviously. But I do want to also just note, just quietly, Andrew Moran, 19-year-old Irish central attacking midfielder, came on today as well and got 12, 13 minutes of football. And did not look out of place either. Very exciting youngster. When I had about a year and a half ago, I had the lad who does the fan of Albion youth account on Twitter and Northstand Chat. He's obsessed with the real young kids coming through and points out these stars. And the one he talked about much more so than Evan Ferguson or any of the others was Moran. And I think it's important to note that he just was quietly shuttled into the pack here and played a very comfortable 13 minutes of football at the top level for the first time in his career as well.
And what a privilege that you get to bring on a player like this in a competitive Premier League game away from home, because you're so far ahead of it being any kind of risk. And we get to give the game time to these youngsters rather than bringing Billy Gilmore on and trying to squeaky bum time our way to keeping the point that maybe we'd garnered. That's the benefit here. The Sanchez thing annoyed me purely because start of the game, pulled off a really, really nice save to his left, got a big old hand on it. The ball did not just go out to Calvert-Lewin so he could start at home. He actually pushed it to the side. It was a really, really comfortable save for him. Everyone just switched off for that ball in. It was a weird ball over the top that Dunk didn't properly deal with. Then Estepinian couldn't properly deal with it. And then Bobby Sanchez just led with his knees, which was a little bit of a questionable choice. But I'm going to block it out of my mind, much like the Charlton game. Didn't happen. 4-0 win.
Yeah, I ragged on Sanchez a little bit in the last pod. I thought he was much better today. He didn't have much to do in the second half. But when he was there, he was counted on, and I think he made a couple of good grabs from corners, which is probably going to be their most dangerous threat, and pulled off a couple of good saves to measure as well. Was close to the penalty. Just a lapse in concentration at the end when you're 4-0 up. I think we can probably forgive that a little bit.
£22 million for Graham Potter and his staff. Nothing for De Zerbi's because he was a free agent. We talked about the unfortunate circumstances around that, but I mean, this seems to have been the best bit of business Brighton have ever done at this stage, isn't it? I mean, this squad is the same squad that Graham Potter has had for 3 years, and we've already just talked about how many goals we're starting to score. Where has this been this whole time? Stephen in the chat, with Potter in charge, you normally needed to watch 600 minutes of football to see 4 goals. You're seeing that play out right now at Stamford Bridge, the place where people drive by and dream of playing. You're seeing it right now, and those dreams are quickly turning into a bit of a nightmare, isn't it?
Yeah, nothing Todd Bowley's checkbook can't solve for, probably, because he will throw money at the problem. I assume he's just writing a blank check at the moment, just says Brighton at the top. And he'll just take anything he can get at this point. Yeah, what more can we say about him? The fact is, there's a reason that the fans of De Zerbi's previous clubs that he managed at, the Sassuolo's been, I'm talking the main one, and Shakhtar to an extent, there's a reason they were excited to see him managing and back in the job. There's a reason that a lot of people's eyes were focused on Sassuolo a few years ago when they were just a kind of nothingish side. And suddenly you got all the hipster football fans watching because they were seeing this sort of tactical genius come in and start to play the game in a very, very different way. When we did the initial episode on what is De Zerbi about and what are Brighton fans going to see, we talked about all these things. But there's a difference between talking about it and then seeing the reality in the Premier League. And what we're seeing is the fact that this nutcase can do it in the Premier League as well, with the same collection of players that weren't this good, and he's making them all better. That's just... I mean, just imagine now. Imagine De Zerbi goes away tomorrow and you have to have some weird little side universe. You have to have Graham Potter and co back. You feel awful about that, wouldn't you? And if he'd have said that a few months back with this situation reversed, you'd have begged for him to stay.
I mean, we were devastated, weren't we? Emergency podcasts out the ass a couple of months ago.
Yeah.
Devastated about the whole thing. And now look at us. And the reason I brought up Chelsea as much as I wanted to bring up De Zerbi is because I do have a question to pose. And it's probably like one of those, we'll never know, or maybe we will, like those JFK files that get released like 80 years later. Maybe Bloom will tell us in like 25 years from now in some random fans forum. The lad that invested in Chelsea alongside Bowley, I'm not sure which Middle Eastern country he's from. I can't remember. I know it's some kind of conglomerate from that area of the world that joined in. He has been, waxing lyrical about the Albion and what they offer from the minute he took over Chelsea, oddly enough, which is when they went in straight in for Potter, right? Bowley has been saying the same thing. They've been poaching all of our staff. We know this. We're painfully aware. Is there a genuine possibility that 3 months ago, the not Bowley, but the Middle Eastern conglomerate that took shares in Chelsea actually picked up the phone to Tony Bloom?
No idea.
I just feel like there's no smoke without fire. The level that they're at of just taking it almost. I know people joke like you may as well have just bought Brighton, but like the longer it goes on, I'm kind of like, did they at least have a conversation? It seems too much, doesn't it? Like it's just, and I mean they said it like a week and a half ago. That same guy, I can't remember his goddamn name. I'll Google it when I go on mute. But like he was even saying like a week and a half ago, like he was like bumming off us again, like just how good Brighton are. And it's like you're not our chairman, mate. Like you took all of our people. We should be old news to you now. Why are you still like talking about us when your team is in disarray?
Well, we'll probably find out when Paul Barber OBE writes his biography, like how I took Brighton to the Premier League title. Yeah, I don't know. We're not going to know until that situation occurs, but it's probably good to bring it back to like that tweet with Mac coming in with the celebrations of the confetti and Lionel Messi liking it and commenting on Instagram. I don't know if you then looked up comments on Twitter and Reddit and so on and so forth with people, non-Brighton fans reacting to that scene. People look on with very, very, very envious eyes at this club. And they look at Brighton as the structure and the way in which they want their clubs run. It's all well and good that you can take this money elsewhere and, you know, whether you want to call it dirty money, whether you want to call it or whatever you want to call it, it's great because you can buy yourself your way to the top. But I think if you gave a fan of another club the actual choice to do something like that or do it in the way in which it's being done at Brighton, where with foundations like Albion in the community and a group of people that look like they like each other, that feels like it's a group of players that have respect and it feels like a family and it's being done in the right way, I think you take that because this doesn't seem like a flash in the pan club whereby the investors walk away in 10 years because they're bored and they're on to the next sport or the next thing. This is this is owned by a fan of the club and it's being done in the right way. And that's such a positive thing for the football world.
Yeah. And if clubs are trying to emulate that quite literally in Chelsea's case, then you know that you're doing something right. But that magic that Adam you're alluding to, that it sounds almost cliche and a bit Disney, but it can't be bought, can it? Really, that's something that manifests by itself over a period of time and a period of nurturing. So, I mean, Josh, to your original point, I'm sure it's a little bit on the nose from Chelsea, isn't it? Just a little bit. So I'm sure there was thoughts, if not actual contact. But this club is something special. It's something special to all of us. But I think we can just see it in the way that these players fight for each other and just the community as well. That it's something that you can't buy.
Yeah, I saw Merritt UK and Sam in the chat both said that Tony will not sell with utter confidence. And I totally agree with you both, actually. I think that, if anything, whatever that contact was that was made, because I'm convinced there may have been at least a precautionary phone call made, I'm sure at this point. There's too much just obvious desire at this point from that lad at looking down the south coast at us. I mean, I suspect that the door was shut pretty quickly. And even if the lad wanted to invest in the Albion, I suspect Tony Bloom's terms and conditions were far too strict and ironclad to mess with. And I think he probably just immediately bounced off at that point. Because I think both Merritt and Sam are right. I think you guys are right. I don't think Tony's going to sell anytime soon, if ever. And I don't think he has any reason to. I mean,
why would he? He's living the dream. He's living his own dream. Why would you? What check can someone write to you that makes you agree to that? Because what else is he going to do? This is it.
Let's talk man of the match. I said to you like in the chat earlier, like, good luck picking one out in specific here. It feels like just the answer is yes, all of the above. So who have you got here for your man of the match at Goodison Park after a 4-1 smashing of Everton?
Oh, you let me go first on that one. Yeah, I mean, it's a yes all around. It's such a good team performance. I said to you before, it feels like a semi-easy choice for me as well, because he is our go-to. But I think you see the difference with Caicedo in this team than without. We were talking about how I think good Billy Gilmour was against Arsenal, but just the difference that he brings, and he's absolutely everywhere. Just does those little bits. Just completely interrupts play, breaks everything down, is so good on the ball. It's frightening how good that player is at the age that he is as well. There's no doubt. Well, we're in for a month of noise with people wanting Caicedo for their team, etc. I just hope that we hold out until the summer of some massive big move, but enjoy him while we can because he's special.
Josh, why don't you go? It's always one of us going first and second. Who do you think?
It's so hard, isn't it? Because I mean, he's the obvious one. I mean, he leads the way on just about every stat that you want to see, I think. But I suppose the other stat that matters is goals. And Evan Ferguson was instrumental in both. And I think that if I'm going to go with a different name, I think the low-hanging fruit is the 18-year-old boy that just started away at Goodison and just looked like a grown-ass man out there and beat shit out of 4 Everton defenders like they were nothing. Scored a goal, got an assist, and just shithoused his way around the pitch and looked like he was just a seasoned pro. So I think I'm just going to go with him, just solely not to join the Caicedo bandwagon, which is also really tempting for me because there was several times there, especially in that second half, where I just had one of those oh, ridiculous. And it was just a tackle he made, like a random one, but it was just so far above anything else you see on the pitch at times. It's like watching Basuma when he was just having a ball out there, but he's 21, not 25. So when you think what he's doing now, what he could be doing at that, it's scary. It's really, really scary. But yeah, I'm going to go with Evan Ferguson for me. Just goal, assist, superb, just brilliant.
Yeah, well, I mean, those are the obvious ones, and I'll pile on the Caicedo part as well. Just, I don't know if he can teleport, but it feels like he was on the far right side of a pitch and then he's like over on the left side and suddenly like taking out another player. And I genuinely, the engine that guy's got on him to just chug around for that all that time, it's just boundless. Such an asset, and there's too many good things to say about him. Ferguson, another amazing one. We talked about how he basically made a couple of goals really, and should have maybe had his second when he hit the post as well, hit the bar. Honourable mention to Pascal Gross. I thought he was really good this game, outside of his sprint, his stroll to the goal, and his chip. But I've got a slightly weird one. Again, I'm forgetting the last 3 minutes of the game. I thought Estupinian was fantastic today. Really, really, really good. Played that cutting ball in to Sarmiento that resulted in Ferguson's goal. He was also the one that freight trained his way through to smash the ball out that ended up going to Idrissa Gueye, which ended up creating the Gross goal. So he had a very, very, very key part in 2 of the goals. Outside of the weird lapse in concentration right at the end, he was really dependable, really, 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 really good.
Yeah, we could go through the entire 11 or 13 or 14 at this rate, and we'll be here for the rest of the evening. But yeah, Estupinian's obviously great. I think the link-up play that he has with Matoma on the left now is just insane. So that doesn't change for me at all. So when you're talking about who comes in and who rotates, they're 2 of the first people that I have on that left-hand side, and that shouldn't change. But yeah, it's all round just a stellar performance. I think the last one, just the special one, probably for Levi Colwill at his age. Just how composed he is, especially playing out the back today. It was a lot today, but being able to do that with relative comfort, and also the defensive effort that he made, I thought he was good. He's getting better, and it's impressive.
Hey, here's a question. Sorry, Josh, I didn't mean to talk over you, but Stephen's reminded me in the YouTube chat here. If you could trade right now, Yves Bissouma and Cucurella, you get them back, but you have to give away Estupinian and Caicedo. Do you do it? Let's assume they're all paid the same.
No.
I don't think you do you?
Which is, how mental is that? Our far and away 2 best players last year.
I will say I do see them 2 different players too. Like I would have Bissouma back tomorrow. Like I would not want to look in Cucurella's direction again. Hype job with stupid hair.
Imagine Bissouma and Caicedo being the pivots and Mac playing a little bit,
and then Mac being able to play 10. Yeah.
And that's what,
you know what I mean. Like you'd take that one, yeah.
Yeah, you got a glimpse of that, like what's end of last season, wasn't it, with that Caicedo Bissouma sort of duo, and we were like, yes, please.
Yeah.
Now we've got a World Cup winner doing it instead.
Yeah, I think to pile on the Levi Colwill train, I've not seen a centre-back pairing look so comfortable with a massive target man, dealing with a massive target man, as I have Duncan Colwill since Duncan Duffy, really. Like it's the best I've seen us handle Calvert-Lewin for years, or players like Calvert-Lewin for years. And I think Colwill takes a big part in that. His physicality at 19, and I have been a very vocal fan of his. But he looks physically superior to Adam Webster at 19 years old. And I love Webster, and I think he's got plenty to offer when he comes back. Love him. Nothing bad to say about him. But Colwill just looks the superior specimen physically, doesn't he? Like, he just looks so much stronger when he goes up against them compared to... no, that's unfair. I was going to compare it to Haaland destroying Webster, but Haaland is also like the Terminator, so it's not very fair to compare to that specific moment, is it?
Frustrating that Colwell's the only one that Bowley can reliably sign for next year. But it's really that South. I really like what I've seen out of Colwell, but I'm still so salty from when we signed him without a buy clause, because there was the expectation that there'd be a buy clause in there. And I think based on the small sample size that you've seen up until this point, let's say the clause of 15, 20 million, you'd go, absolutely, we'll take that. 19-year-old centre-back that can start games in the Premier League and look good as a backup for an oft-injured Webster. Yeah, give me that guy. And that's why it's like, potentially you're going to go into, we've talked about the transfer window. Do we need another central defender? Well, if Colwell's going to walk out the door in the summer and go back to Chelsea, then yes, you probably do.
Yeah. This week, you'll probably see a lot of nonsense on the interwebs about transfer windows. Now, this kind of flurry of games post-Christmas have kind of wrapped up, really, aren't they? So you're sure to see a bunch of it between now and FA Cup weekend. So just keep calm. Don't worry too much about it. You'll probably see a lot of absolute crap going on. But I think that it's a good question here, just in the chat from Stephen before we kind of wrap up. After listening about how Burners playing at Newcastle, in a way, was he underrated? I think you've probably forgotten at the time that people were acting like Christ himself had died. When Burn left, he was the most important player to ever play in a Brighton shirt, I think, according to some. But I think the curse is you just don't shit talk Brighton when you leave, because Cucurella did it, and look at the way he's gone. Potter did it, look at the way that's gone down. Bissouma didn't do it, and he's not come out of it looking any worse. It's not for him. For me, I don't think it's made him look bad. It's just more look like Spurs was a horrible fit, more than it's made Bissouma look shit like the others have. Mope said Everton was a massive step up, barely got on the pitch today. Just don't say mean things.
Step up geographically, maybe you meant.
Dan Burn didn't say a bad word about us. And look at him. It's true. It's the curse. You don't shit talk Brighton and you can have a nice career. But if you do it, just the seagulls are coming down and just pecking on your roof and stuff. You just don't want to do it because it's just spirit breaking for these players and coaches, it looks like.
Yeah, you're not wrong. I don't think all of us it was Dan Burn was one of those ones where we all at the time basically just said, that's a shame. We got money for a guy that we probably wouldn't have got in a year or two once we ran the contract down. And at the time we felt like we were fairly decently placed, but yeah, as you said, glad to see he's doing well. I don't think he's needed back right now from a depth standpoint, sure, but there's plenty of other. We'll just go back to the whatever else incredible scouting network does, and we're going to sign some random bloke from Albania to play centre back, and no one's going to have heard of him, and so we're going to sell him to Man U for 60 million in a year,
and he'll be like 12.
Well, I mean, yeah, all the power to him. You know what I mean? I think it was just a nice fit. I don't think he was going to get any significant game time with us, but yeah, this fair play. I think he's doing well. He's at his boyhood club. You can't really argue with that.
Yeah, I think that rounds us off, boys. We'll be back for the FA Cup game this weekend, obviously for the Borough game, and there's a lot less riding on that one, so I'm not too worried about it. And then, of course, we'll be back in the league, Brighton versus Liverpool on the 14th at the Amex. It should be real interesting. That's probably going to be the full return of Caicedo and Alexis together. And the question there will be, we're halfway through the transfer window. What's happened? And is Ferguson lining up in the starting 11 that week? And then after that, it gets a bit messy. Because Leicester Brighton is also the weekend that I'm moving back home to the UK. So I don't know what the hell is going to be going on there. All I can guarantee is that we'll definitely have a podcast out after Brighton Bournemouth. What happens between Liverpool and Bournemouth, I can't make any promises. I would do my level best. Even if the boys just record and I somehow find some random remote spot to do the upload. I don't know. We'll figure it out. But yeah, we'll be back for sure for two more. Between then and now for Borough and Liverpool.
Awesome. What a way to close it out before the FA Cup. Cheers all for listening.
And more power to you if you're going up to Borough as well, because I wouldn't want to.
Yeah.
All right, fellas. Have a good one. Happy New Year, everybody.
Thanks you. all. Happy New Year.